After my father's funeral, I discovered he left his entire fortune to a woman I had never met, only to learn she was my secret half-sister. And the truth shattered everything I believed about my family. After my father's funeral, I learned he left his entire fortune to a stranger, and the reason why shattered everything I believed about our family. I need to start with this. My father was not an easy man to love. He was respected, admired, even feared, but never soft, never warm. Never the kind of parent you wanted to run to with your scraped knees or your secrets. He was precise, disciplined, and brutally honest in ways that often left me feeling like I'd failed some invisible test. Yet for all of that, I still loved him because he was my father. And when he died, despite the complicated mix of emotions I expected the one thing every son expects: to inherit his legacy, both good and bad. That assumption, as it turns out, was the beginning of my undoing. The funeral was exactly what you'd imagine for a man like him: black cars, polished wood, men in suits speaking of honor and integrity, women dabbing their eyes with tissues. My mother sat stone-faced through most of it, her hands clasped in her lap as if she were praying, though I knew she wasn't religious. My sister whispered to me during the service that Dad had always been more loyal to his business than to his family, and while I wanted to defend him, the words caught in my throat. She wasn't wrong. After the burial, we gathered in the lawyer's office, a room that smelled faintly of leather and old books, where the weight of generations of family decisions seemed to hang in the air. I expected formality. I expected legal jargon. What I didn't expect was betrayal. The lawyer, a man named Mitchell who'd known my father for decades, adjusted his glasses, cleared his throat, and began to read the will. My heart pounded as he spoke, not with excitement but with anticipation. This was the moment when everything my father had worked for would be passed down to us, his children, except it wasn't. According to the will, my father's entire fortune, his businesses, properties, bank accounts, and investments, was to be given to a woman named Eleanor Ruiz. My sister and I exchanged a look of disbelief. My mother didn't even flinch, which in hindsight should have been my first clue that she knew something we didn't. The name was unfamiliar, foreign in our lives. A stranger dropped like a bomb into the middle of everything. There must be some mistake, I said, my voice louder than I intended. Who the hell is Eleanor Ruiz? Mitchell hesitated, his eyes flickering toward my mother, but then he shook his head. There's no mistake. Your father was very clear about his wishes. My sister slammed her hand on the table, tears springing to her eyes. You're telling me he left us nothing, after everything we endured growing up under his rules, his standards, his punishments? Mitchell folded the papers neatly. Your father's estate belongs entirely to Ms. Ruiz. There are letters he left for each of you, to be delivered today. He handed us envelopes, heavy with the weight of words we weren't sure we wanted to read. I held mine in my trembling hands, staring at the elegant script of my name across the front. I didn't open it then. I couldn't. Instead, I stormed out of the office, rage boiling in my chest, confusion eating at me. Who was Eleanor Ruiz? Why her? Why not his family? The people who bore his name, who suffered his distance, who tried and failed to please him for years. The next day, I sat alone in my apartment. The envelope on the table in front of me, it felt alive, like it was breathing, daring me to open it. Finally, with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, I tore it open. Inside was a letter written in my father's unmistakable handwriting. My son, it began, formal as ever. If you are reading this, I am gone, and there are things you deserve to know. Though I could never say them in life. The fortune I built does not go to you or your sister because it was never meant to. That wealth belongs to Elena, and by extension, to a truth I have hidden from you all your life. My stomach twisted as I read on. Elena is your sister, my first daughter. Long before I met your mother, I fell in love with a woman who could not be my wife because of who her family was, because of who I was expected to be. We had a child together, and though I loved them both, I was forced to choose between my duty and my heart. I chose duty. I built a life with your mother, had you and your sister, and tried to bury the past. But Elena is blood, and she was denied the life I should have given her. This inheritance is my attempt, however late, to make amends. I dropped the letter, my breath ragged. A secret daughter, a hidden family. My father, the man of iron principles, had been living a double life before ours even began. I thought of my childhood, of the way he'd always seemed half-present, as though part of him lived somewhere else. I thought of the money, the endless drive to build and expand, as if he were trying to fill a void that could never truly be filled. And I thought of Elena, a stranger who suddenly wasn't a stranger at all. My mother refused to talk about it when I confronted her. She simply said, "Your father made his choices. So must you." My sister, on the other hand, spiraled into fury, swearing she would contest the will, that she wouldn't let some outsider steal what was rightfully ours. But deep down, I couldn't bring myself to feel the same. The money mattered, yes. But what mattered more was the truth. The man I thought I knew had never really existed. A week later, curiosity and something deeper, something like longing, led me to track down Elena. She lived in a modest house 2 towns over, nothing like the estates and mansions my father had owned. When she opened the door, I saw it immediately: the shape of her eyes, the curve of her jaw. She looked like him. She looked like me. "You must be Daniel," she said softly. And for a moment, I couldn't breathe. We talked for hours that day. She told me about her childhood, about how her mother had raised her alone, about the times my father had visited in secret, never staying long, always promising more than he could give. She showed me old photographs, letters, birthday cards signed with a name I recognized but in a handwriting that belonged to a man who'd been a stranger to me in many ways. By the time I left, my anger had dulled into something else: grief, yes, but also a strange sense of connection. My father's betrayal had fractured our family, but it had also revealed a piece of it I never knew existed. And yet, the betrayal cut deeper than I could admit. He had chosen her, in the end. He had given everything to Elena, not to the children, who bore his name, who had lived in his house, who had endured his absence even when he was physically present. Was it guilt that drove him, regret, or was it simply love, the kind he had never shown us? These questions haunted me, shaping my days and nights. I wish I could say that meeting Elena healed the wound, that we became a family, that my father's secret united us in some poetic way, but the truth is messier. My sister refuses to acknowledge her. My mother, brittle and tired, avoids the subject altogether. And me, I'm caught between 2 worlds: one I thought I knew, and one that was hidden from me until it was too late. Sometimes, late at night, I read my father's letter again. I traced the words, the apologies unspoken, the explanations that feel both too much and not enough. And I realized that the inheritance he left behind was not money, not property, not businesses. It was a legacy of secrets, of choices that shaped us all in ways we're still struggling to understand. Elena may have inherited his fortune, but we all inherited his silence, his distance, his inability to live fully in the truth. And that, more than anything, is what shatters me. Because in the end, I didn't lose the money, I lost the chance to ever truly know the man I called father. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this.